Hello and welcome to this place on the internet where I talk about all the things I make, mostly knitting. Welcome to everyone. My name is Irma and you can find me on YouTube, Ravelry and Instagram as Wolwerkjes. It has been a busy time since I last recorded the video. Well, busy. Not that busy, and that's why I did a lot of knitting. So knitting wise it was quite busy, and we will just start with the things I want to show you. What I'm wearing is one of my finished objects. I will take it off for a moment. It is a cowl, as you can see, and it is knit out of a handspun. That's the grey yarn. And all my all the swatches I made for my colors I use in my dyeing. I made swatches out of the colors. Like I only use 4 colors. If you want to call black a color, it's a color of course, but I don't use black that often. But I have three primary colors, which are this bluish color, cyan, yellow and magenta, and I mix those in certain like equal half and 1/4 to 3/4 and stuff like that, to test out how they mix and which colors I get out of them. And I did it when I started dyeing in 2018, I think. And I don't need those swatches anymore, but I didn't know what to do with them, so I decided a few weeks back I will just make something out of it, and it turned out to be a cowl. I did it in brioche stitch. More on brioche later this episode. I have something to tell you about it. So brioche, and the other one was a handspun yarn. I spun a silk merino blend, and I don't know if you can see, but at some places I put beads in the yarn. It's hard to see, I think. There is a ray of sunlight just coming here when I go forward, but we will just have to deal with that. I don't know if you can see, but there are some beads spun into the yarn. Not overly bright or overly busy, but there are some beads in there, and I really liked it. This is how the brioche is knit. So I did a color and then a few rows of plain brioche with one color, and then I went to the next color and so on. And I graphed the first and the last together. It's here. I think I did quite a good job in hiding that seam. And yeah, that's how it went. I did want to put on an I-cord edge at the top and the bottom, which I did, but normally I would do that while knitting the brioche, and now I did it afterwards, because I already started and I was like, oh, I would like to have a nice clean I-cord edge there, but I didn't want to rip back, so I just added it at the end. And I did not know how much I would wear it, but I wear it quite a lot because it's so easy to pop on. It's exactly the right width, so it stays up a bit and it covers my chest a bit, and yeah, I really like it. I wear it a lot, and it's perfect also with a jacket or something, because normally when you have a big scarf you can't close your jacket anymore, and that's very easy when you wear a cowl. So that's one of the things I have been working on. So I finished more. First this one. Last week I talked about the cardigan, that's the first cardigan I ever knit. That was this cardigan. I wore it so it's inside out. I will just make it a little bit tidy for you. So there was a problem with the button bands. That the one with the button holes was way wider than the one with the buttons on it. And in my head it was an easy fix, like going down needle size. I didn't know which needle I used, but I could kind of guess it, and when it was too big I could go down. So I ripped it out and I picked up all the stitches. I recounted the stitches at the side where the buttons were. This is where the buttons are. So I recounted how many stitches I had over here and how many I picked up at the other side initially, and I only was 2 stitches off. So that was not the problem, because with 2 stitches more you don't get that much difference in size. So I went quite small with my needle size and I was binding off, and I still had the same problem, and I was sure it wasn't the amount of stitches. I was sure that I already knit it a lot tighter than I did it initially. So there was something else wrong and I just couldn't figure it out. So what I did, I just did a very tight bind off, and now it's even a little bit smaller than the side with the buttons, but like just a little, and once it's closed it covers that and you don't see it anymore. So yeah, there's something very strange going on there, and I did not want to overthink it, so I just was like, well, it's fixed now, it works now. But it took me longer than I first thought it would. And yeah, it's fixed. I wear it in the house a lot. I see I made a stain on it, so I need to clean that. But it's very easy to wear, and I really like that I can wear my very first knitted cardigan after a few years of putting it aside. Strange thing that you finish something, you put a lot of time in it, and then it's not wearable, and I put it aside and fix it a few years later. That's just, if I would have just put the time in then, I could have worn it for a few years already. Just, I did not have the brain space at the moment. That's not the only 2 things that are finished. So this was like a finished project. This was something I need to mend, and I did. So it's a good flow I'm at the moment. I have another finished object. I finished the mittens for my husband. They only needed the thumb when I last showed them. That was a few episodes back, and I was like, oh, I only need to knit the thumb. How long can it take? Well, apparently a few weeks. I think more than a month, but I finally did it. There is a little bit difference in the way the color work shows. I think you can see that on camera. This one appears a little bit darker than this one. It has nothing to do with how I held my yarn, because I know that can happen. Like when you knit with 2 colors, I have 2 colors on my finger, one in front, one in back, and you pick the color you need, but because the colors are always in the same spot, there's one color a little bit more visible in your knitting. And I once made a mistake by flipping those colors around, and I had a very noticeable color difference. So I'm very aware that that can happen. So that's not what happened here. What happened over here is that I knit this one like, let me see if I can brighten this a little bit up because it's quite dark. maybe too bright, but we will see. What happened here is that I left this mitten 3 years. I knit this one 3 years after I knit this one. And I think that's the problem. I think I did the cuffs at the same time approximately. A little bit later as well. But I knit the body of this mitten 3 years later, and my technique just evolved. I think it got better. Lucky me. I knit a few years longer and I knit neater than I did before. I think that's what happened. And I think when you're wearing them and non-knitters just won't notice it, it's just for me that I see it now. But I'm very happy that I finished them and that I can give them to my husband, and that when the weather is getting cold, like it's colder than it was, but it's not cold yet, but they are finished. So once it starts to be cold, he can wear them, and I'm very, very happy about that. It only took me 3 years. So those are all the things I finished. I don't have other finish. Oh, I have something else I finished. It's not knitting, but it's finished. So I think I should show it at this point. And that's this lovely skein of hand-spun. I will untwist it a bit, like, oh, I really, 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 really like it. Spinning is such a relaxing, fun thing to do. Once you know how the fiber behaves, it's like it has a bit of a... You have to take a little jump to start it. I don't know how else to explain. Like, you need a spindle or a spinning wheel. Well, a spinning wheel is more expensive, so most people start out on the spindle. I have to say, spinning on a spindle is a complete different experience than spinning on a spinning wheel. I love both, but I think the spinning wheel is a little bit more relaxing. I think it's good to start on a spindle because you really get the control over the fiber when you start spinning at the spindle. But the first few spins you make are very unique and you won't get those gains. It's very hard to get this effect later on. Like, it's very thick and thin and it's bumpy, and I love the first yarn people spin. I think it has a unique quality. It's very fun to see. But once you get the feeling of how fiber reacts in your hands and how far you need to pull it away, and once you get like the hang of it and you have a spinning wheel, it's so relaxing. You just sit there and your feet go a little bit up and down. It's not like an exercise, but you're having a rhythm and you can easily talk, and you're starting to do it on feel, not as much on sight, which I really enjoy because it means I can like watch a series on television or talk with someone, or if you put a stand, I don't do that often, but if you should put a stand next to it, you could even read a book or something. But it's very, very relaxing because of the rhythm. And I think why people love to knit to relax so much is also because of the rhythm. That's why people that really want to relax tend to knit an easy stitch pattern like stockinette or something, just because it has a rhythm. And that's even more with spinning, that you get like a rhythm and you really can relax and enjoy. And I really love spinning. And maybe this one is definitely just for me because yeah, I first have to see how it knits up and stuff like that. I did a bright version of this one, so I did different colors, like rainbow. I once showed it, I think. And I did use the same technique in dividing the colors in this one, but I first have to see how it knits up and stuff like that. But I really like it. So I will be spinning more in the future, and maybe one day I will put some handspun in the shop. There were some people that would really like that, so that will be there one day. But this one is for me. So I got interrupted. My mom called and I just pick up when my mom calls. So I got interrupted. I'm thinking, I showed you my handspun. Yeah, so there is another project I am, it's a new custom. I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but if you do, you have seen me struggle with, I really wanted to start this, and I finally did. I had to finish some things for myself, so I finished the gloves and I finished the cardigan I had to repair. So I did all those things. I did a little bit more on my twist and turn shawl. So I finally allowed myself to cast on this project. And it is a cardigan out of Lane issue 4. Am I saying that right? Issue 4, yes. That's the one with this picture on the front. And it has a cardigan. I showed it last time. I will show you again. It is called Morginn, and it's a very... well, not very oversized, but it's an oversized, yeah, can you call it a grandpa cardigan? It's like the buttons start low, it has a v-neck, it's very big, cozy and squishy. So I'm knitting this, and I'm knitting the size medium, but my stitch gauge is a little bit different than in the pattern. So although I knit a size M, I think the size is coming out a little bit larger, which is fine. I anticipated for that, so that's all okay. And this is how far I am. I'm knitting the sleeves at the moment because I am a little bit scared that I might not have enough yarn to knit the pattern as it's written, like the length that it's written for, but I am knitting a completely different gauge. So I'm noticing for the sleeves that the decrease rate I should use would give me like sleeves that go to the moon, like very long sleeves. So I have to adjust it a little bit here and there, but that's not a problem for me. I can do those calculations, so I'm very happy with how this is turning out. I even like it more on camera than I do in real life, maybe. It's very nice wool. It's Irish wool. It's very rustic. I don't mind rustic wool. I really like rustic wool. It gets very soft, in my opinion. Once it's washed and worn, it gets softer every day, and it can handle a lot of things. So it's very good isolating, where a superwash wool isolates less than natural wool does, because what they do with a superwash is they strip out the fibers that the outer layer of the fiber, they strip it off, and that's the one that causes felting. But it also makes the air stick in between the fibers more, which makes it more isolating, so it keeps you a little bit warmer. And what I really like about non-superwash wool is that it's not water repellent, but it can handle water very good, so it doesn't get wet that easily. When you're standing in a lot of rain, of course it will get wet, but it doesn't feel wet as easily. So you can wear it as a little jacket, and I really like that. I don't know if this one is going to be worn as a jacket, but we will see. So I did it's top down. I did the top part. It has some raglan increases. It has some v-neck shaping at the front. And I knitted 2 complete skeins of 200 grams, and then I started to knit my sleeves with the 3rd skein. And we will see how long I will make this one. It is knit in Fisherman's rib. It's very stretchy. They also warn in the pattern that it will grow when you wear it. So I don't think the problem will be the length. It's more like, do I have enough to put the pockets in they ask for, and I'm a little bit worried about the button band that it needs, but I will figure something out for that. I'm very much loving this knit, and I can't wait to wear it and wrap myself in it and just enjoy the garment. This made me think about a dilemma I have heard a lot on the internet, and it's about the difference between brioche and Fisherman's rib. I will make it separate. I will make a little video about it separately, but I will talk a little bit about it here as well. So I never knit Fisherman's rib before. I did know how to do it. I did knit a lot of brioche before. I'm quite confident in my brioche knitting. So when I was knitting the Fisherman's rib, I was like, this looks to me exactly the same as brioche, only the way you make it is different. The way you get the fabric is different, but the behavior and the look of the fabric is exactly the same. So what I did is I made 2 swatches, and I know they look a little bit different on camera now, and I will explain you why that is. But once you open this up, you get those extra loops around the stitches, right? And that's exactly the same in both swatches. Now, make a guess of your own. Those are knit on the same needle size, exactly the same amount of stitches. Which is the brioche and which is the Fisherman's rib? Have you made a decision? I will tell you. This is the Fisherman's rib and this is the brioche. The behavior of the fabric is the same. The way the yarns go over and around each other is the same. You can see a slight difference though. And that's because of the way you make the fabric. I think I prefer this one. There might be people that say I prefer this one. It's a little bit more open. This is a little bit more puffy. I don't know how else to describe it. But you can interchange those techniques. So I will make a little video in what the difference in the technique is. I can tell you, you can go from a brioche to a Fisherman's rib and the other way around. That's no problem, but if you change halfway through a project, you can get a different look. And why is that different look? That's because of how you make the stitches, where you make yarn overs to create those extra loops. In a brioche, you get that effect in a different way with the fisherman's rib, what you do is you knit the stitch below the stitch that's on your needle instead of the stitch that's on your needle. I think this is more even. I think this is easier to get even than brioche is. And I don't know why, that's just for me. That can be different for everybody. But I thought it was really funny that it's the same, only knitted in a different way. And because you knit it in a different way, you get a slightly different look. But as I said, the way the yarn is going through the fabric is exactly the same. I think this will grow more when you wear it. There is a little bit more, because it's so puffy, there's a little bit more space for it to grow. And of course a brioche stitch grows as well, but I think it's a little bit more stable than this one is. I think this will grow more, but I really do prefer this look over this look. It can also be the way I knit. But if you're curious, look at the other video. It will be up around the same time, or maybe a day later than this video is. Because I knit it needs a little bit more editing. But yeah, that was a very nice discovery, I think. And it can take away the discussion around it, because is it the same, is it not? The fabric you get is the same, but it's knitted in a different way, and that's why the look of the stitch can be a little bit different for everybody. But the fabric you get is interchangeable. And I think for people that prefer one or the other, you can, every pattern that's written for brioche, you can adapt to make it fisherman's rib, and the other way around. So that's good for people to know that do prefer one look over the other, that you can interchange those. So every pattern that's knit in brioche, you can knit in fisherman's rib, and the other way around. And I think that's very, very nice to know. So one last project I want to show you is the Twist and Turns Mystery Knit Along by Stephen West. I am finally at clue 4. Not clue 4. Yeah, clue 4, not section 4. It has, in my head, it's, there's a collision, like you have the sections and you have the clues, and I keep mixing those up. There are a lot of sections and only 4 clues. So I'm finally at the last clue. I'm not at the final section yet, but I can show you that one side of my shawl is finished. So this is the center, and I have knitted this wingtip completely, so this one is finished, and I am knitting on the other wingtip. So I need to attach this strip to the rest of the shawl, and I'm not sure yet what I will do with the bottom, because in the pattern he how am I going to show you this? Like in the pattern you have this middle section, section 1. He adds something to the bottom of that to give it a little bit more depth and things like that. And then when I'm looking at it like this, I do think it needs something there, because this is also going deeper than it's going over here, so it needs something. I know there is an early bind off method, and there are people that made their own adjustments. I think I'm going to stay with one of Stephen's options, so that will be like, I think he adds like a rib pattern or something like that. I haven't read that part yet, but And then he's going to chevrons again. I'm not sure if I will also add the chevrons, but yeah, I'm just not sure what I'm going to do with this bottom part. But that it needs something is quite clear in my mind because of the cables and stuff that's over here. It needs something to give it a little bit more depth. I've seen people that did not knit the cables in this section, and then you don't need something down here, I think. Then you have like a very nice shape, but because of those sections here, I think it needs something at the bottom as well. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. We will see. I am very happy with colors I chose. I did know I wanted something bright but also with a neutral, so that's why I put the light grey as a contrast color, as my accent color, and I'm very happy with that. I'm very happy with the pink and green, and I again know why I love hand-dyed yarn so much, because it's so playful. It's a one-colored skein, but there is never one color in a hand-dyed yarn, and I just love it when I knit it, that I see the subtle color changes in the yarn. I really like that, and I think I'm going to wear it a lot because I don't like it when shawls are too short in their wingspan, because I really like to wrap my shawls around, and sometimes you only have like a very tiny corner that you can tie it so it will stay on, and I think with this one I won't have that problem. I think it's almost twice my wingspan, so it will be perfect for me to wear. So yeah, I think I'm very happy with the choices I made, and I'm curious about the choices I'm gonna make. There's nothing else to tell you about this pattern. It is super fun to do. Everybody has said their own thing about it. I don't really have to add anything. I did put the I-cords in the cables. I was not sure that I would, but it really adds something, and it doesn't give that much bulk as I thought it would. So yeah, very happy that I made that little accent there. And yeah, now it's just making time to finish it, and it should be this here. I'm doing it in between, like I not force myself because I really like to work on it, but I sometimes, because I love the Fisherman's rib so much, I sometimes say to myself, well, first a little bit on the Stephen West and then again on the Fisherman's rib, and what happens is that I keep knitting on this and it goes quite fast, so it should be easy to finish it before the end of the year. About other plans. Will it ever stop? No. I do have other plans. When I was clearing out my yarn stash, I came across a few skeins that I had a plan with, but never executed it, and I'm thinking about doing it quite soon. And those I was these are the skeins I am talking about. I bought these to make a little mouse for one of my children. I got a book. Let me see if it's up here or not. I don't think so. It's called something with woodland knits or something like that. There are all kind of knitted animals in there. They're not written to be children's toys, but my children are not that small anymore, and they know they need to be careful with things and stuff like that. And I did not put any iron thread in there to let it keep its shape or something like that. And there was a pattern for a mouse, and there was a request for that, so I made the mouse. But the color, that's the thing when you let children choose their own patterns for toys and stuff like that. They almost always want it in the colors they see in the picture. And mostly I am just like, well, I will make an adjustment in the color and it's fine. But this time it was very clear I had to use the colors out of the book. So I bought these skeins and another one, but I'm not going to use it for my new project. Yeah, so I ended up with quite some yarn for a very little tiny mouse. But when I saw the colors, I immediately had an idea to make something else out of it, and I'm thinking about designing a hat, and I already have an idea for the pattern. And I'm going to hold the mohair, I think, only with the white, so you get parts of it will be fluffy and parts of it won't be fluffy, and I think that will be very nice. So I think this will be one of my new cast-ons, but I first have to finish things before I make new cast-ons. And I also still have a design I have to make for Wolplein, and I'm still busy with that as well. So there's a lot to do, so maybe I shouldn't cast on, but it would be nice to have it for winter, so I'm not sure yet. But I don't think I have to think about too much new project at the moment, because I really have a lot of ideas and I just can't do it all at once. So just before I get completely different ideas and don't have time for anything besides knitting, that would be so fun. Only knitting all day long, every day. I think I can do that. I'm starting talking nonsense. I will say thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!